is iRacing.
With a nickname like the Alabama roller coaster, you know this place is going to take you for a ride. But will that ride be to victory lane or back to the garage? Let's find out as we get ready to watch round 8 of the Lotus 49 Grand Prix Legends Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes, our director Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Made for motorcycles but loved by all car racers, this place has become a destination here in North America. Let's find out more about it with our track guy.
Welcome to Barber Motorsports Park. Located just east of Birmingham, Alabama, this is one of the newer circuits in American road racing. The track was built in 2003 by George Barber to go along with his Barber Vintage Motorsports Museum, which can be seen appropriately from Museum Corner on the track. While the main circuit is the full course, which includes 16 turns over roughly 2.25 miles, there are also 2 lesser used layouts called the Short A and Short B courses. The track is known for its technical layout and hugely dramatic elevation changes. In every category of racing, it carries a reputation of making overtakes difficult. That's not to say it's impossible, with most passes happening into Charlotte's Web. Named for the spider sculpture outside the hairpin, it often suckers drivers into braking too deep with a sudden drop just as you attempt to slow the car down. That's not the most challenging part of the circuit, though. Museum Corner is reminiscent of turns like the corkscrew, with its blind entry, multiple apexes, and cliff-like plunge down a hill. IndyCar and IMSA have visited many times in the past decade, while motorcycle racing is also a regular staple here. Practice and precision are usually required to be able to find a fast lap, but there's a heavy dose of bravery also needed in a number of spots. Despite the track being very wide, accidents often collect multiple cars due to the lack of visibility over crests. All in all, this place proves tough to even seasoned veterans. But with the hillsides and trees providing beautiful natural viewing spaces and an immaculate facility, it's no wonder fans keep showing up in droves to watch the racing here.
Really is an impressive track for how much they squeeze into such a short lap here, Joey.
It's an amazing facility just there in Alabama in the south here in North America. And as we look at the track map, 15 turns, 2.38 miles. Like you mentioned, known as the Alabama roller coaster, there is plenty of elevation at this racetrack. A couple of big passing opportunities. Turn number 5, probably your biggest and best brake zone. And then turn number 8, that is the Museum Corner. You got to be careful getting in there. It is a tricky little jump over the curb, and then you got to get the car really slowed down. And then Sector 3 is probably the fastest sector on this racetrack. Turns 9 and 10, as well as 11 and 12. They're fast switchbacks. Got to watch the compression as well as the rise up and over the tunnel between 12 and 13. And then don't forget about the final 2 corners here at Barber. Turn 14 seems to last forever, and it's also a decreasing radius. You really got to tighten it up at the end. And then turn number 15, a lot slower than what it actually looks like.
Always catches at least a few drivers out there at the very end. Now, as for the championship, Valenteus has not failed to win since the very first race at Aragon. So he's been collecting 60 points week after week, was not here for Fuji, so it stays at only 32 points between himself and Jorge Nieva. But honestly, the drop weeks see him quite a ways ahead as it sits right now. Nicola Kaki sitting there in third, also giving chase along with Bill Tyler with quite the season so far, just very, very consistent, collecting good points. Hasn't really had anything phenomenal, hasn't had anything really bad, but has been finishing up there, and that's what's put him up into fourth place. But you look down, and it's quite a fight between Tixier and Olsen there for sixth place, and they've got Gary Ho only a few more points behind them, so that's going to be a lot of fun as they also try and get ahead of Verbruggen, who is just a couple points ahead of them. So should be some good mid-pack battles in this one. But what about the F2 standings, Joey?
It is very close in these F2 driver standings right now. As you see, Roberto Pengrazzi leading the way, a mere 9 points ahead of Thomas Tuba. But look at how close everything else is. Ben Summers, Thomas Willershausen, only 3 points separating them. Eric Essery only a couple points separating himself from those two. Mats Linden a single point back. Also throw Don Peak in the mix. Tobias Harnvey, Jonathan Jordan, all in that kind of 3rd through 9th place. Then we finally got a gap back there to 10th place, Mitch Heller. But as these weeks kind of close down, this F2 Drivers' Championship still up for grabs.
Now, if you pick two countries that you'd expect to be kind of fighting for the top here in the Nations Cup, I don't think you would highlight Lithuania and Spain, but they've been our main protagonists for the last few seasons now, and they're only 2 points apart here, and we're about 3/4 of the way through the season, so this is shaping up to be a real classic as it is right now. But that's if they wind up being able to stop Audrius Valenteus, who is the main one contributing for Lithuania. United States and United Kingdom and Singapore all very close down there for 3rd, trying to kind of bring up the final step of the podium, with Italy in a close fight with Australia there for 6th place, only 6 points separating those two. And then Netherlands and Finland also watch out for that battle for 8th, a mere 4 points separating two titans in motorsports, especially here in the sim world. What about for today's race, though, Joey? What are we looking at?
Yeah, we are here at Barber for round 8 of 12, 24 laps around this southeastern, or really just southern U.S. circuit here. Open setups as always, so if you like the way the car drives, well, guess what? You can open up that garage tab, tweak and tune everything, make sure it drives even nicer for you. In terms of the penalties, we have a drive-through at 17 incident points, a disqualification at 25 incident points. And here at Barber, there's lots of green grass. There's plenty of runoff out here, but it is a relatively small circuit. Got to be careful about banging yourself into your competitors on the racetrack.
Without a doubt, it's going to find our drivers really having to be precise around here, not just to avoid going off track, but avoid running into one another, as Joey mentioned. But we watch to see who is going to be topping qualifying. That, honestly, one of the more critical parts of races at this place. It can be so difficult to overtake.
Passing can be at a premium, and here we've got the number 2 car of Zamayoa, your provisional pole sitter, a 123.903. So he sets that early carrot to go out there and chase. Nikola Kaki is sitting right now. P2 is, I think, Audrius Valenteus, who we've got the camera on right now, is actually going through the turn 10 and 11 complex here. He's on his very, very first timed lap. He has not put down a lap time yet.
So Zamaloa with 3/10, but we wait for Valenteus. Then that's the story. Also, Mick Claridge, Ove Trangrade, what are they going to be able to put down? Could they maybe challenge? Mick Claridge, honestly, has had an up and down season this time around. He really needs a good result here just for an ego boost. He's definitely not in the championship.
And, I was wrong. Valenteus, that was not his first time lap. This is his first time lap right now. So that was a warm-up lap. Remember, they have 8 minutes in qualifying and up to 2 laps. Typically, we see these 49s produce pretty similar lap times on lap number 1 and lap number 2. Typically, we see them kind of pick up this pace a little bit on lap number 2. But I also like the drivers that kind of wait in qualifying, because the only bad thing that can happen is everybody else's name pops up on the board, and you know how fast you've got to push it out there.
Zamaloa now down to just under 3/10. Verbruggen is the one that has gotten close to him. But Valenteus, who we continue to watch, comes along the backside of the circuit. A couple swift chicanes here. And you can see just how he has to nail each apex. And boy, is he testing the limits, getting right up to the edge of the grass.
This is such a fast section right through here, and this is turn 11, all up over the curbs with these cars. You've got the compliant suspension. They can definitely handle all of those undulations in the racetrack, and then here you really got to get the front slowed down in order to get the grip on those tires. And then through the final corner here, turn number 16. It's always a pushy situation on the first half, and then loose coming out the back half.
He'll cross the line with a 23.9, and that's good enough for the front row, but not pole. It's very close for Verbruggen, less than a tenth between he and Kevin, as Jorge Nieva now crosses the line. And where does that actually put him, or is this his first lap here?
I think that Nieva's lap might have been discounted or basically invalid because he probably got a 1X somewhere. And with these high-speed S's a little bit later in this racetrack, Joe, you can definitely kind of find yourself maybe a little bit too far off the track or jumping over an apex. I suspect that might have been what happened to Nieva.
Oh, man, this will be rough for Nieva if he has to start from the back here. He'll get some practice trying to overtake if that's the case, but he needs this one to be clean to start more towards the front. That's also a spot where you can pick up those off tracks down through Museum Corner. And let's not forget another odd fact for this weekend, as he spits up a lot of grass here, is we have no driver that has finished second more than once all season long. It has been trading hands the entire season.
Well, in order to first finish second, Nieva's got to put a lap time on the board, because I think starting back in 38th would not be a good kind of starting position for this driver, especially with how fast we always know he is. So out of the final corner here, let's see what he can put down. Top of the board is a 123.7 this lap time, a 123.8. That's going to put him P3.
Nicely done. It is going to be quite the battle there for the lead, because Valenteus' second lap is now within a tenth of a second. In fact, top four split by less than 0.2 up there. It is very tight at the sharp end of the field. I think we are in for a classic.
Yeah, and, you know, I completely missed Valenteus' second lap. He did improve, but not enough to take that pole position away from Zamaloa up front. So that was one heck of a lap, especially early on in qualifying for that number 2 car. We're going to see if he can set the pace throughout today's race as qualifying finally wraps up.
Nick Claridge did not set one, I'm noticing, so he's also going to have to come from the back of the field and give us a little bit of action today, but we'll keep an eye on that as qualifying is now done. And let's go through our starting order for round 8. Oye Zamaloa, your pole sitter over Audrius Valenteus, but will it stay that way? Very few people have been able to beat Audrius in the last few seasons. It'll be Nieva starting from P3 and Kevin Verbruggen in 4th. Then it's Leo Sequeiro, P5. Sip Tixier, good qualifying for him there in 6th. Ove Trangrade, P7, and Nicola Kaki, P8. Then row 5 sees Gary Ho in 9th, and Laust Olsen rounding out your top 10.
The other of the Olsens, John Olsen, will be starting in 11th. Glenn Becker back here in 12th place. Akuliski 13th. Pedro Temiladri in 14th. Juan Rodriguez starting in 15th with Rolly Wallbank in 16th. Roberto Pengrazzi 17th. Ben Zocco 18th. Robert Plumley 19th. And Cam Porter rounding out your top 20.
Artie Cook will be starting in 21st. You've got Matthew Maudsley in 22nd and Jeff Saunders 23rd. Then it's Andre Bruno in the 24th position. Quarter century mark goes to Tobias Harnvey with Michael Grissinger to his outside. Eric Essery will be the next one on the inside of that row with Thomas Tuba to his outside. You've got Felix Antoine Tremblay in 29th, and then 30th goes to Babis Mavrakis.
31st is Seth King, lined up with Mick Claridge next to him here in 32nd. Jason Clapper, 33rd. Kirk Clapper, 34th. Zabala in 35th. Willershausen, 36th. Linden and Don Peak rounding out the 38 cars. And I can say that Don Peak, even in 38th, not around the final corner.
Well, that's good, at least as a straight start on this one, as they do a standing start traditionally, which is on its way as the green flag is out. And Zamaloa does get a decent start. Valenteus starting to encroach upon him, goes around the outside, and we got a big incident down in the first turn. Nicola Kaki involved. Didn't see who the other car was, but immediately Valenteus takes the lead away.
Yeah, it was Nick Cocky going bowling with Seb Tixier. Unfortunately, they both find themselves in the wall on the outside of turn number 1, but here we are at turn number 5 for the first time. Nieva taking a deep look down the inside. He's not going to be able to get third, or yes, he is. He's going to get the drive up off of the corner side by side with Verbruggen.
Throttle control so difficult at this track coming off of these corners, and Verbruggen discovers just how tough it is as the soft shoe Jorge Nieva is going to find himself back in the third with that run. They go single file down through Museum Corner, and it looks like other than that incident into turn 1, we're mostly clean at the start.
Yeah, I'm going to knock on some wood over here because we are only halfway through lap number 1, and there we go through that Museum Corner a little bit further back in the pack. But this, I think, is where a lot of the danger really starts to happen on this opening lap. This section of corners 10 and 11, so incredibly fast, and the car is loaded up the entire time.
Around the last couple corners now and to the start-finish line, Valentes will indeed lead the first lap with an impressive move in turn 1 to give him the lead. Zamaloa and Nieva chase at this point. Meanwhile, not a whole lot of movers in your top 10, just a couple towards the back that managed to get 2. Olsen and both Olsens, and then Liskey up 3 as we check in with Leo Sequeiro, who is on the defense with Ove Trangere. Actually, first, let's check out a replay. It sounds like we got a look at what happened down into turn 1, and Seb Tixier, unfortunately, going to exit early.
Yeah, and it was that bright green helmet, Nick Cocky, and we know Nick is always one of the fastest drivers, and this is not the way that he wanted to start a race, but unfortunately, there was no open door, and he kicked open a door.
And I tell you what, they were very close to Leo in that number 7 car, so he's very lucky he got away with that one. Ooh, as that was a bit wide coming down through Museum Corner here towards the back of the field. Thankfully, everybody gets through it. As we watch Robert Plumley trying to fight with Arnold Cook, who is side by side. And Plumley is going to have to back out of it. That was Mick Claridge finding his way through up to 16th now.
I was noticing Mick is plus 16 already on the day, so he is definitely doing a good job trying to make up that lack of starting position as we see Ove Trengray right on the back of Leo Sequeira coming out onto the front straightaway. Usually turn number 1, not a very good passing opportunity just because you see the track really falls away. There's not a huge brake zone in it. I think more the drivers look towards turn number 5 in terms of your best passing opportunity. But Joe, I was going to mention a name because he popped up on timing and scoring. Zabala in the number 26. I've never seen him here in the 49. He's up 14 positions already.
Okay, yeah, so let's watch out for him. Clearly is quite good in this car. And the name doesn't ring a bell for me either, honestly. In the meantime, here we see him on screen. Didn't set a lap time in qualifying, it appears, but is doing quite a good job in the race itself, having started from 35th and coming down into Museum Corner once again. Whoa, McClarich having to brake, not anticipating the speed at which those in front of him try to tackle it.
The Museum Corner can be very, very tricky. You want to roll as much speed as possible, and you saw McClarich kind of get balked up right there. He's got Tema Laudry as well as Wallbank directly. Those are the 2 cars in front of him, so Mick just trying to find the rhythm. Now a little bit of a slip up again from those 2 cars, and you see just the speed from McClarich so much faster than both the number 20 as well as the number 19, so you're going to see him slip to the inside here, grab 1 position, and then he's going to look to clear Wallbank here relatively quickly.
Ambitious move, but it paid off for Claridge, so he's taken a lot of spots. Rolly Wallbank, another veteran who's been around a long time here, so he'll be well familiar with Mick Claridge. Question is, how hard does he fight him? If he gets a run, does he simply let him through? A little bit of action behind him between Tim Laudry and Zoko. It looks like Zoko is going to get that spot as well as he sneaks by coming up over turn 4.
And just look at how it's all stacked up. I mean, this is about 6 or 7 cars, and we've got 2 by 2 going into turn number 5 here. And like you mentioned, it's all about that throttle control on the exit there. One of the slowest corners we've got here at Barber, but it leads you out onto this straightaway here, so you got to get the forward drive and that traction coming off of turn number 5.
He has tried his hardest, couldn't quite get in there. And just behind them, Cam Porter is also in amongst the mix as we watch on board with him. Got to go single file coming through the chicane as they quickly find out and everybody kind of slots in the line.
And let's see about 10 and 11 here. I think this is really where we saw McClarich just run up on some of those cars directly in front of him. And once again, too wide, a couple cars in front of Cam Porter here. I think that's actually Robert Plumley making the move on Juan Rodriguez. So there you see the too wide directly in front of that red number 23, that change of positions, but it's just going to kind of shuffle back and create some more passing opportunities here on the front straightaway.
Cook really wants to try and do something, and he's showing his nose, but I didn't think that was going to be a legitimate attempt coming down into turn one. As you said, it's such a fast corner. Somebody's dragged a whole lot of gravel onto the racetrack. Looks like most of it has been cleared on the racing line. If you go wide through the roller coaster, you are in trouble, it looks like.
And you know, I have to giggle every now and then at that graphic update. Joe, doesn't it look like a bunch of dandelions on the racetrack?
Yeah, someone needs to put the weed killer out there. That is for sure. Is John Olsen on Laust Olsen here. No relation between the two of them, but Laust Olsen has it, and John wants it.
Up into ninth, I should say eighth for Laust right now, and John Olsen still giving chase, and Laust having a good few weeks here. Remember, Laust is always running inside the top 10, but I believe it was last week he was right there in kind of the top 5, top 7. Wasn't until a little bit later in the race that he kind of slipped back a little bit. So a good first half once again here for this yellow and blue number 14 with John Olsen giving chase.
See the battle between them. Don't want to lose touch with Gary Hose. Not that far up the road as well. So it's a bit of a gap up to the next one. A train grade here versus Leo Sequeiro. Now, these two have been close pretty much since the start of the race, but they're still in the same order they were before. So let's see if Leo can continue to play defense.
He does kind of put it right in the middle of the road into that slow turn number 5. And I've really been noticing on the exit here, these drivers are not using all of the racetrack out to drivers, right? I think it's purely just letting the car do its thing, right? You got that big old honking motor in the back of these Lotus 49, so as soon as you start to put that throttle down, if it kind of has to walk on you, you have to let it drive. You have to let it do its thing.
No arrow to help you out. Try and keep it stick to the ground. So everybody tries to use that mechanical grip, and then, of course, like we keep saying, just it's all up to the driver to try and make it work with what you're doing with your feet. Meanwhile, as we watch on board with John Olsen, this is a place where he can make a big difference. Look at how blind it is up over the bridge, over the tunnel turn here. And then it's a long, long right-hander to try and wrap up the lap. Both of them trying to tuck it in late down to the curb and then switch it back onto the main straight.
And you saw how loose it was for Olsen, or for Laust, I should say. They're both Olsen. Laust was coming out of turn 16, huge wag of the tail, but not close enough for John to make the move into turn number 1. Laust left him about, call it 3/4 of a car with at apex, knew he was there, but John just decided this was not the corner to try to force the issue here. Let's see if I can maybe get a little bit closer to that number 14 car, maybe apply a little bit more pressure, maybe make a little bit of a bigger mistake, and then that's the opportunity that probably John is looking for.
We're only on lap 7 of this race, so it's still very early, and I get the feeling limiting mistakes is going to be a big talking point. Drivers who are able to keep it on the racing line seem to have quite the advantage today.
I like that talking point because Barber, there's not really a whole lot of time to rest. Even the straightaways here are pretty quick and short. So everything is thrown at you, it seems like at 110%. So you just got to stay up on it, and you got to stay with the racetrack, and it's going to be nonstop for, call it, another 14 laps or so.
In fact, it's nonstop pressure for Leo Sequeiro. Train grade's getting ever closer. He's right on that gearbox. They can't quite seem to get the exit off the final corner. Ove's kind of notorious for sometimes showing up without any practice, gets his first laps in the warm-up, and then somehow puts a lap in qualifying, and then off he goes. I don't know what the situation is for this week, but clearly he seems quick from the get-go. And as they come up over turn 4, this is where he needs to be right on top of things as we check in with Jorge Nieva just ahead of them. Nieva still in that third position where he started, but looks like he's well within range of Zamaloa and Valenteus.
And Kevin Verbruggen has done a terrific job as well. He has just hung right on the back of those front three, so it is a top four that is a breakaway. And I wouldn't count any of these four out. Kevin has really kind of upped his game this season, especially in these last few weeks. He was up on the podium this previous week, so do not count out that light blue number 5 in 4th position.
Based on the qualifying times, we kind of anticipated it would be close up at the front here, and it does look like that is panning out. Valenteus still only 2 seconds away from 4th place as it sits right now. We got a replay on Mats Linden down in Charlotte's Web, and he's the latest to get caught up by the Spider.
Gets back going on the racetrack. Thankfully, no harm in that rejoin here as we continue watching the front of our field. Valenteus, Zamaloa, Nieva, Verbruggen. That is our top 4 breakaway. They've got about 2.5 seconds before you meet the pair of Leo Sequeira as well as Ove Trengrade in a nice little battle. I've also been watching Mick Claridge. He's finally cracked up into the top 10 as well. It's going to be a rough going for the next 15 laps or so for Mick Claridge, because now he's at that sharp point in the field and those gaps are getting bigger.
Back around the Alabama roller coaster once again. We watch Ben Zocco. Looks like the time zones line up for him today. Often he finds himself just a little bit too late at night to try and compete. Can he be late on the brakes? No. Rolly Wallbank will hold him at bay for now. Tim Aladri watching, seeing if that opens any doors, but no dice. And then Plumley is behind them as well. There's a look coming down to Museum Corner, but definitely not an attempt from Ben as they go back to single file, plunging down that almost corkscrew-like corner.
Always been a fan of Ben Zocco because he does the biggest burnouts after every single race. That is the best way to end a race. So keep up and at it. I love watching, seeing him racing out here. And then this is another driver that I really like watching with our Lotus 49s is Jason Clapper. Why? Because he never qualifies. He has got the speed to run up inside the top 5, but he likes that poor track position and making as many passes as he possibly can. Plus 15 for the day for this black number 13.
That said, 2 weeks ago, when we were on the Charlotte Oval, he did qualify and he wound up on the podium. So clearly he's got the pace to try and be up to the front if he wants to qualify, at least on the oval side. Zabala just behind him watches as Clapper took a little bit of a peek, but decided not to try anything coming into the first turn. Mikael in 20th, up 15 right now.
Yeah, he had that huge lunge in those first couple of laps and then has found a nice little group to race it out here, as it looks like Ben Zocco is finally going to be able to make that move, secure what is 13th place position, get by Rolly Wallbank, and now Rolly's got a whole mess behind him with Plumley as well as Tim Aladri all going into that museum corner. Get on the brakes as you go down the hill here.
And I tell you what, Plumley just made the move on Tim Aladri, gets himself into 15th, just picked his pocket after they saw those ahead of them slow them all up. So nicely done. Mick Claridge has got the bit between his teeth, and pretty soon he's going to have 9th place, as that is Laust Olsen caught napping coming into the final carousel.
And something else that I'm noticing here, because remember, it was John Olsen in that blue car giving chase to Laust a handful of laps ago. So now that Mick Claridge has gotten by one of them, I see that John Olsen is now up the road. And you saw the line difference just between John and Mick there in turn number 1. You can see the speed and where Mick is really gaining it. Did you see how aggressive he was over that apex curb?
Yeah, and you got to be careful at this track. They might not look like much, but some of them do stick up quite a bit. He's going to be aggressive on the brakes as well. Going around the outside, does he switch back? No. Looks like holding on to the apex. John Olsen will retain that 8th position for the time being, but he's going to have his work cut out for him.
Let's watch the rolling speed through this section here. Yeah, and see, Mick is just carrying so much more speed, and you see him get balked and almost have to kind of change the line on exit because he can't roll onto the gas with the car directly in front of him. Here's another good opportunity coming out of turn number 11. He is right on the gearbox of John, but just right in the middle of the racetrack is where he finds that blue number 10. A nice defensive line.
Says if you want this, you're going to have to work hard for it. Oh, he leaves the door open, shuts it very late, and Claridge backs out just in time. I thought we were going to see an accident right there.
100%. I think that Mick Claridge maybe saw the move coming before it actually happened, because he was all the way up alongside, or what seemed to be all the way up alongside, and somehow he got away with it without any contact.
And right on top of that curb to the inside, and stays very tight to the inside of turn 2 and 3 there for at least the first part. But will that hurt him coming off the exit? This is where he's got a good chance. Again, Olsen defending the inside. Again, Claridge goes deep into the corner, locks the brakes up. He goes too deep, and that won't work.
No, and unfortunately, just can't get the drive off of the corner. I was going to say, sometimes you can actually extend that turn 5 brake zone to essentially place the apex further down the racetrack, as it looks like our lead has definitely tightened up as well. But back to my point about Mick Claridge and the driving line, it just didn't seem to really work out for him. A big difference I see here is what happened to Kevin Verbruggen.
I was just wondering the same. He was 4 seconds slower last lap. I suspect there was an off or some sort of major mistake out of the number 5, so he's no longer a factor. It's now down to just the podium runners up at the top of the field. That said, it has been as close as 0.2 of a second between P1 and P2. It might not be that way now, but Zamaloa is still forcing Valenteus to have to watch those mirrors.
Yeah, and you know, I went back and tried to find what happened to Kevin Verbruggen, and it was actually, here it is, picture in picture, looking in the top right of the screen, coming down into turn number 5, just a lazy half spin, kind of like where we saw Mick Claridge do, but it's cost him about 4 seconds of track position.
And that meant that...
Leo Sequeiro.
Yeah,
sorry about that, Joe. No, he was just down there at turn number 5, and cars were going all around him.
Noticed that too. I think there was a lapped car that was spun facing the wrong way. I wonder if there was contact between them. Mavrakis. Now, yeah, this is the car that was not facing the correct way at a corner where you really don't want to find a car on the racing line. All of them having to split, and unfortunately, Leo loses a spot, I think, in the process.
Yeah, definitely did, but thankfully no huge contact, and I will give credit to Mavrakis. He didn't just pull it back onto the racing line, so that's a tough position to be in, and handled well.
Everybody making the best of it, I guess, is what we could say in the process. Is Tim Laudry now sandwiched between a number of cars. Boy, that was a lot of curb there for Robert Plumley in that blue and yellow machine, and he's going to try and go down to the inside to the final chicane, but he's denied by Wallbank. Now he switches back over the tunnel turn, but he loses traction. I thought for sure he was going to be able to get that done.
Tell you what, I think that he's going to have to owe a little bit to Rowley, and now he's going to try to take advantage on the inside. The outside, the previous corner, carries the momentum, and now Rowley's not going to lose 1 position, but potentially 2, as Temaladri is now all the way up alongside before even that turn 1 brake zone. So Rowley Wallbank was extremely nice to Robert Plumley, left the door open in that turn 10-11 complex that previous lap, probably avoided contact between the two, but unfortunately still loses 2 positions.
It wasn't a Alabama roller coaster, it was the Alabama freight train at that situation. And coming down into the braking of Charlotte's Web, he loses yet 1 more, as Jason Clapper says, thank you very much, add me to the list.
So Jason Clapper plus 17. Unfortunately, Mick Claridge is still up the road at plus 23 for today's biggest movers. Checking in with Glenn Becker here in the red number 16 car. Looks like he's got a new paint on the side of this thing. Always love getting the in-sim camera shots, also using the virtual reality. One of my favorites.
Yep, I haven't really talked about Glenn a whole lot, and it hasn't, at least from what we've seen, been a race to write home about. That said, he's up 1 from where he started, been just maybe calmly putting the laps in, as we can see his health stats as well live. I always love that aspect of what he feeds us, as that was a big off from Laust Olsen in front of him.
Well, what I'd really be interested in with Glenn Becker, because I know he does a lot of aerobatic flying. He's got a pair of Pitts S2 specials, and so I wonder what the heart rate difference is between when he's in the racing car simulator versus when he's actually doing aerobatics, as we see Mick Claridge finally get that pass done on John Olsen there for what is ninth place. I'm sorry, John's actually still able to defend, so being a very tough customer here for Mick.
I bet you these two are really enjoying it. Like I said, they've both been around for quite a long time here in the 49s. Mick Claridge loves a good battle. He's not too heartbroken about having to make some overtakes from the back of the field. He tries to set him up, but look at that. John parks it right at the apex coming through the first chicane.
And now he's going to take a look down into this fast section, but that's just not going to happen. Let's see if he can do an over-under. He's been really faster here, but this time John closes the door. Remember that a handful of laps ago where Mick Claridge almost went barreling into the back of him? I guess John saw it in the mirror.
He keeps trying to set him up, and he just times it ever so slightly wrong and gets balked at the apex. He's got the speed. He knows that's what he needs to do. He tries to outbrake him into turn one, does force him off the racing line. That does the trick. Claridge is through.
Sometimes you need to be a little bit pushy and shovey out there on the racetrack. You don't need to go up there and physically hit somebody, but sometimes you do need to be a bully in order to get that position out there. And Joe, did you see what's on the nose of the Lifesaver machine today?
I have an inkling, and it does look like my parents' dog Daisy, I think, has made an appearance. Yeah, it looks like on the side as well. We just got a glimpse of it. Yeah, there she is right there. So my dad knows what we like, so he decided to get himself a little bit of screen time with the traditional method.
Well, you know what? He's just following in some big shoes. Wasn't it Seb Tixier that started putting out some amazing liveries for us with the doggies? So, yeah, he's just following in Seb's footsteps.
Meanwhile, we're going to check in on Gary Ho, up to 7th, and he's the next one on the list of Mick Claridge. Granted, it's going to be about 3 seconds that Mick has to make up before he gets a chance to try and make this overtake. Gary instead focused forward on Leo Sequeiro after Leo lost his position a few laps ago. He's not done with having to play a rear guard. He's got yet one more that he's got to watch out for.
Do you see how much this motion simulator is really throwing Gary Ho forward? Now, typically we see it, go left, right, side to side with those lateral movements, but here in the Lotus 49s, there's a ton of pitch in the car, and look at him. Every time he stands on the brakes, just that seat is pitching him forward. He's got those harnesses keeping him exactly where he needs to be, but I think that this is a really cool shot to kind of show what the vehicle is actually doing.
Figure out, is that the Taco Bell logo on the side of his car as well? I guess he's just a big
yes,
it is. He's just a big fan of Taco Bell. I didn't know they had them in Singapore. I'd be very curious if they have any specialties.
That's what I was just about to mention. It seems like Jason Clapper maybe had a little bit of an issue out there at turn number 5. But yeah, Joe, kind of to your point, there's always those international menus, but I don't know about Taco Bell in Singapore.
I'm going to have to look that up after the broadcast.
Yeah, Google.
Meanwhile, back to Robert Plumley, down to 15th with Jason Clapper here, coming off the backside of the circuit. Again, there's just such a huge rise at this part of the circuit, a blind entry. It dips and then it goes blind again on the exit as you come over the crest. Both of them handling it nicely.
Nicely done there, and just keep it going, keep it rolling. That's what you need to do in these races sometimes, is just find your way to the checkered flag. And not a whole lot has changed up front here. Valenteu still leads the way, Zamaloa in second place, and Nieva trying to find a way around in third. You saw the excellent drive out of the museum turn that Nieva had, but just really nowhere to go with it on this racetrack. Joe, it kind of goes back to the talking point at the beginning of the show that you mentioned. Passing, it can be difficult here.
Oh, he gets so close to the back of him. And this could be where Nieva says it's go time. We got 7 laps to go. Going to make that 6 here in just a couple corners. And he maybe thinks he's got something for Valenteu's, because I'd say he was waiting quite patiently before, which is very much in the MO of Jorge Nieva. He's not a very aggressive driver, but he's turning up the wick on the number 2.
Could have been waiting to see if Zamaloa had some pace in him, because remember, that was the pole sitter, that white number 2 that drifts very wide in that turn 2 and 3, really squares up the bottom half of that corner, gets the run down the straightaway here. So maybe Jorge was just trying to be patient, see if Zamaloa had some speed to go up there and threaten Valenteus, but it hasn't been there for the first, call it 19 laps. You're right, Joe, it's time to get a move on.
Doing what he can while Valenteus continues to gap them, coming up in a museum corner. Time is ticking down, and they have had a bit of lap traffic here and there, although it hasn't been constant. It's just every once in a while they seem to catch another car. Next up going to be the number 24 sitting in 30th position as we check in with Verbruggen. This is Ove Trangrade just in front of him. So working on the spots just outside of our podium positions here. Needs to get a little closer, though, if he wants to take this one away.
And I was singing Kevin's praises earlier today. It's kind of unraveled just a touch here in the latter stages of this race. But let's give credit to Trangrade. Remember, he was battling with Sequeiro earlier. He's up +3 in terms of this race to find himself in the 4th place position. And that might not seem like a lot compared to Mick Claridge's +25, but when you're at the pointy end of this field, every single one of those passes gets more and more difficult. Great run for Trangrade today.
I mean, as evidenced by Mick Claridge having such a hard time get by John Olsen. Granted, he's already passed Gary Ho. We missed that pass somewhere. So he's up into 7th and now trying to catch up to Leo Sequeiro. Valenteus, just as flawless as ever. And especially considering he was not the quickest in qualifying, this has been a masterful race, taking that lead away right at the get-go and then controlling the race from there.
With about 4.5 laps remaining, and I'm looking up the road from our leader. You see one lapped car. There might be 2 lapped cars on the horizon, but it seems pretty clear sailing for Andreas out here. Just got to keep it together and hit the marks.
So we watch him actually approaching Don Peak here pretty soon, so we'll see whether Don is able to step out of the way politely. Usually is very aware of those leaders coming through. Meanwhile, we're going to focus on the battle between Zamaloa and Nieva coming off of the final turn and down the main straight. Oye with a much better run that time. That keeps him at arm's length. These are both Spanish drivers fighting to try and contribute points to the Nations Cup as Valenteus takes another fastest lap ahead of them.
And do you see that fast lap? A 23.4. Oh, he goes off the racetrack here, trying to avoid that lapped car, unfortunately. So it's going to give up a little bit of track position. What was 1.8 seconds out front is now down to about 3/4 of a second as this battle between Ove and Kevin rages on going down into turn number 5. I actually think I saw Kevin was side by side with that orange number 9 car back there in turn 1 area, I think.
Yeah, that was the lifesaver car, unfortunately not living up to its name for Valenteus. Unfortunately having to go wide off of turn 4. Verbruggen down through Museum Corner. Looking a little quicker through there than Trangrade. No place to take the speed. That's really been quite the story of that corner all race long. We've seen drivers carry so much more momentum, but have to almost check up to avoid causing an accident.
See how Kevin handles this up and over crest here. Really gets the car pointed straight. All 4 tires still on the pavement. Nicely navigated through there. I think it's, call it one of the more unsighted areas of this racetrack and one of the faster areas as well. So you can easily find yourself out in the weeds there on driver's left.
It does feel like it takes forever to get the car wound up, and I never feel like I get the most out of that turn. Seems like there's a lot of speed to be found if you're brave coming into those last couple turns. Verbruggen, I don't think he's quite close enough here. Coming up and over turn 4, although that was a big slide, it looked like, from Trangrade. Doesn't lose enough time to make him vulnerable down into Charlotte's Web.
It's all about rolling that narrow side through turn number 5. It does look like a little bit of an unorthodox racing line. I just think it's what the cars will give them in terms of that power down, traction driving off of the corner. So sometimes you don't need to go out all the way driver's right, just like we've seen the drivers do all day today.
Definitely has its unique secrets, this track. It feels like if you've done your practice, you can find quite a bit of speed. And coming up to that last chicane once again. Is that more lap traffic in front of them? Yes, it is. Tremblay, it looks like, on peak up ahead, so this could get interesting.
Yeah, so coming up to 2 laps to go here at the line. That lapped car stays well out of the way, so our top 3 runners will not be affected. But if there is a difference, look at who just put down that fast lap. A 23.1 from our second place car.
Picking up the pace. Could have been Valente's maybe hitting some of that lap traffic as well that slowed him and prevented him, because these cars get lighter as the fuel burns off. As you see, there's no scheduled pit stops. Valente's back down to about 7/10 ahead of Zamaloa, but a little wide there by the number 2 coming off of Charlotte's Web.
See who's deep on the brakes going into this museum corner. Valente's has just been so smooth all day long. Once again, just 1, 2, 3, nailing every single apex. Lap cars getting out of the way. And Joe, I do see a bunch more on the horizon. Got 1 lap to go at the line here. Do you think our leaders are going to run into the back of it?
It's going to be close. They might catch them about partway through the final lap, I'd estimate. It depends, because those are all 4 position ahead of them, that they're not quite battling with one another, but I don't know that they'll want to give up too much time. So it's a toss-up. This could go either way.
And this is going to be interesting, because here comes the number 1 car coming to 1 lap to go here. I think I saw the 38 of Seth King pull up and out of the way. So final lap here around Barber Motorsports Park for our leader.
It's Bruno, Grissinger, and Harnvey ahead of them at this stage. While we watch on board with our leader, Valenteus. It was a little close coming down to the roller coaster for Zamaloa and Nieva, but they lost ground coming off the exit. Now we can start to see some of those lapped cars up ahead. Little bit off the apex by Valenteus, but he manages it well, carrying the speed coming off the turn. Are they going to catch them? I thought they'd get them earlier than this, but it seems they have decent pace.
That's what I was kind of thinking along the same lines, too, is that are these drivers, are these cars just slightly quick enough to basically be in the way in the last set of corners? But if they keep up this pace, Valenteus might just be able to follow them through.
Ooh, and it was close behind them. Zamaloa had a big bobble coming through the chicane, and Nieva nearly managed to duck underneath him, but had to check up. Here we go. They're going to get the first one. Andre Bruno coming into the last turn, but he's fallen off the back of him, so doesn't necessarily need to battle. What's it going to be coming off the final turn? It's a little too far ahead, I think, for it to affect the fight. Valenteus made the critical pass, turn 1, lap 1, and off behind them, it looks like Zamaloa, I thought he was going to give it away, as the win goes to Valenteus for another time in this race. Zamaloa will finish second, Nieva third.
Oh my goodness, let's watch the rest of them come across the line. Trengrade will secure 4th, with Kevin Verbruggen unfortunately slipping down to what is 5th place on the racetrack. Gary Ho going to be coming around these last couple of corners here, secure himself a nice 8th place, with John Olson rolling in behind him. Glenn Becker will probably finish with the top 10 as well. Joe, I just wanted to put in here, I think that Zamaloa and Nieva must know each other, as Gary Ho just demolishes his race car in turn number 1. I was going to say Zamaloa tried to give away 2nd place to Nieva, and Nieva's like, no, I don't deserve it quite yet.
Yeah, that was a strange one. Not sure if he felt like he unfairly held him up on the back half of the course or what, but I mean, fair play to both of them, as polite as they come. Cam Porter is going to at least get an 18th place here today. Zabala up 16, but he's been outdone, no surprise, by Jason Clapper, up 19 this race.
Yeah, a couple of big movers, and there's my guy, Ben Zocco, burning the car down in turn number 1 on that exit there. That is the best way to leave the racetrack.
Absolutely. Although the most positions gained easily to Mick Claridge, up 25 today. Just unbelievable run on a track where we have repeatedly shown it is not easy to overtake. But Valenteus is still yet to be defeated this season since round one, as he takes away yet another win.
Man, you see how fast they're going on pit road here, Joe?
I guess the stewards weren't looking, so he figured might as well have a little bit of fun there at the end. Here's our race results for today's event. Valenteus taking yet another win and extending his lead. Zamaloa, I'll have to check to see if he's one of those that's had a second place. He might be the first person to get second twice this season. Nieva third, as Ove Trangerade was P4. Then it's Verbruggen in fifth, followed by Leo Sequeiro in sixth position. Mick Claridge was P7. And then Gary Ho with eighth. John Olsen, ninth today. Glenn Becker gets himself a top 10.
Laust Olsen back here in 11th with Aku Liski finishing in 12th place. Ben Zoko, nice run up to 13th. Jason Clapper plus 19 on the day to finish in 14th. Pedro Temaladri with a nice top 15 finish. Robert Plumley 16th. Rolly Wallbank back here in 17th. Cam Porter 18th, and then Mikhail Zabala back here, a good day, plus 16 to finish in 19th. Jeff Saunders rounds out your top 20.
Arnold Cook comes home where he started in 21st, as Thomas Tubu is 22nd, then it's Tobias Harnvey 23rd, and Michael Grissinger 24th. Andre Bruno P25 today. Matthew Maudsley, last one on the lead lap in 26th. Villershausen was 27th with Eric Essery in 28th. Don Peak coming home 29th. And then Tremblay in 30th. And then I'll just round these out as Linden and Seth King last two to see the checkered flag. And Grazi, Mavrakis, Rodriguez, Clapper, Tixier, and Kaki. Unfortunately, DNFs at the back of the field. I checked, and the stat still holds. No driver has taken second twice this season, as Zamaloa took a win at Fuji, but has not finished P2. In fact, this is only his second time coming out. So very interesting stats building up, as it looks like we've got Jorge Nieva ready to talk to us here, coming home in third. So why don't we chat with our podium finisher. Jorge, congratulations on another top three, but it looked like it was frustratingly difficult to try and make passes today.
Yeah, it's even more difficult when the guys in front are faster than you, like Audrius and Loyer.
So talk to us about the end of the race. We saw Oye check up, and we saw you check up. Was there a story behind any of this, or what was going on?
Yeah, Oyer is a friend of mine, so I think he wanted to let me buy for the points in the championship, but I didn't want the position like that, so I backed off, and he took the second place he deserved. He did a really great race.
Always makes me happy to see how much a sportsman you guys are out there, really wanting to play fair. So talk about today's race in general, though. You said you didn't have the pace, but it looked like you were trying to put the pressure on late. Did you feel like if you could get by Oye that maybe you could challenge Audrius?
I think maybe with the slipstream I would have passed Oyer if he made a little mistake, but Audrius is really unreachable. I think I was there only because I had a two-car slipstream and I could go faster on the straights, but then had I lost the slipstream, they would have go farther away.
That makes sense. Not a track that we usually think of as a slipstream track, but clearly had an effect. Well, congratulations, regardless, another top three. We'll see if you get back on the top step next week.
Thank you, guys.
That was Jorge Nieva finishing P3, followed by Cam Porter. I think Joey has caught up with him.
Yeah, we'll bring her down to the broadcast booth down here. Congrats on the 18th place finish, dude.
Hey, thanks, Joey. Appreciate you, the work you guys do at GSRC. It was a pretty fun race. I am not that great at Barber, not my best track, so I just focused on having a clean race, keeping the car pointed straight, sort of race my own race, and not be too concerned about my guys around me. Although I had a pretty close battle with several cars out there, so pretty fun race and good result for me.
Yeah, we got you some camera time out there. You were involved in a couple of those battles like you had mentioned. But since you had kind of brought up Barber, what don't you like about Barber?
I don't know. It's just a track that I don't believe that I historically do well at. I think it's a challenging track for sure. A lot of elevation changes and sort of braking zones where you're going over a crest. So I was able to manage it today, though. Just not my best track. I really can't explain it. I've been there, and it's a beautiful facility, and I like the fact that Mr. Barber is a patron of the arts because I'm an artist. So I like the track. I just wish I could do better at Barber.
I hear you, and you're right. The facility, the museum, everything about that place is just beautiful down there in Alabama. But we look forward to Laguna Seca next time out. Another relatively short, lower speed circuit. Do you have more confidence there than here?
I think so, because I have a lot more laps under my belt at Laguna Seca. Obviously, when I was first racing with iRacing, it's a track that's, I think it's included with the membership. So I did a lot of laps there. And plus, historically, back in the old R Factor 1 days, I did a lot of laps at Laguna as well. So hopefully the track experience will help me out there more than it does here.
And we got a bonus question here for you, Cam, because I see it down here in the chat. Joe Peak wants to know, since Barber's got the big museum down there, and you obviously are incredible with what you do with woodworking and art, do you think that maybe someday you can get some art down there in the museum itself?
Well, that would be wonderful. Obviously, I've done a lot of car art, and I know like I said, he's patron of the arts and likes car art in general. So maybe I should introduce Mr. Barber to my work.
I think that would be so cool, and you do a fantastic job. It would be so neat to see that. But back to the esports stuff. Congrats on the 18th place finish here today, Cam.
Thanks, Joey. Keep up the good work, guys. Love it.
That was Cam Porter driving that red 3 car today.
I definitely think it's worth seeing one of his there at some point. Real quick, though, we're going to chat with Mick Claridge. And Mick up 25 positions today, an impressive run without a doubt. But we're talking to the other drivers. It sounded like it's so tough to pass here. So what's the secret?
The secret is start behind people that are 3 seconds a lap slower than you. That's the secret to get past loads of people.
Well, John Olson also figured out the trick to defending. It looked like you and he. What a battle that was.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I knew it would be tough. I was just looking at the people that were in front of me on F3, and my girlfriend sat there as well, and I was calling it out. I was saying, I'm going to be catching John in a minute. And yeah, she was she knew the story with that. So yeah, John's brilliant. I love the way John fights, and he just, we just don't care. We're like that in every practice session, every race we race together, so it's just good fun. I knew it was going to be as hard as that.
So what cost you in the qualifying? Did you intentionally not qualify, or was it a mistake?
Oh, you're joking. No, I got a 1X on my first lap, and then so I just reined it in a little bit, and I thought, okay, I won't worry about being too fast. And because I slowed down, I lost concentration because I slowed down, got another 1X. So yeah, but I'm really happy because I've been really quick all week, and I'm just happy. I've changed a few things. Basically, I've started wearing glasses, Joe, and I can actually see the track again. I'm not even joking. Joking. That's the truth.
I mean, I feel like that would indeed make a big difference. Well, glad to see you taking care of yourself, and well, maybe you'll see the front next time then with those glasses.
Yeah, let's hope.
All right, that was Mick Claridge, who managed to finish 7th today with an impressive drive up from the back of the fields, which is going to wrap us up. Of course, giving a big thank you to the community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And of course, thanks to our team today, Joey, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and a merchandise store, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Next race is going to be Laguna Seca, as was mentioned by Cam, so should be happy hunting ground for him. Saturday, May 17th at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, but we've got more racing coming up later today. The IMSA Vintage Series goes to Summit Point, so make sure and look out for that, because that is going to be a real treat. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see ya on the track.
This is iRacing.